Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're making a video that I actually had no plans to make. But a recent conversation that I had sort of led us to where we are right now. And the conversation was revolving around what my favorite concealed carry pistol was. After all, that's what we're talking about here, and it's a subject of much debate. But this is for me, this is my personal opinion. And for me, the long and short of it is the Sig Sauer P239 SAS. This right here is my favorite. Now, before people jump all over me and start telling me all the reasons why I'm crazy, and pointing out the fact that we have all these high capacity, slim polymer striker fired guns and that they have better capacity and you know that they're less expensive to buy. Before people tell me all of these things, hear me out. Just let me tell you a little bit about this gun. Okay, so first of all, the history. What you got to remember about the Sig P239, at the time that this gun came out, you didn't have a whole lot of options for small, concealed carry pistols. And this gun was actually developed for federal agents and law enforcement as an answer to a good off-duty concealed carry gun. And this was 1996 was when this went into production. So, it was just recently discontinued in 2018. So they made it for 22 years. So it's not like that this gun was a failure. They made it for a long time. It was extremely popular with a lot of people, both law enforcement and private citizens alike. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we're going to talk about the features real quick. Okay, so when this gun came out, you were able to get it in 9mm, which is what this is. You have a 8-round magazine, single stack magazine, plus one in the pipe. Obviously, we're clear. And that gives you total capacity of 9 rounds of 9mm. There are those that would argue that that's not near enough capacity. And, everyone has their own opinion. We'll talk a little bit more capacity whenever we talk about the range a little bit later. But for me, 9's plenty. Now, you were also able to get this gun chambered in 357 Sig or 40 Smith & Wesson. But if you did, it was a 7-round magazine, so you lost 1 round. You went to 7 plus 1. Like its larger brethren, there's a lot of other steel Sig pistols, large full-size pistols that have a similar setup. They have a frame-mounted decocker, slide stop, double action, single action setup. For me, I'm a pretty big fan of double action, single action weapons. I've heard people argue that a double single is an outdated concept and that your carry gun should have just one kind of action, either double only or just single only. And just for me, I think that's a bunch of hooey, and we'll talk about that once again when we get to the range section. But, this pistol has an exposed hammer. So if you want to go straight into single action, you can. You can fire straight from that point. Or, of course, you can pull the trigger and go to double action, and your follow-up shots will be single action. Like I say, slide stop, your takedown lever. This is a really good design, and this is shared by the larger SIGs as well. But once you get this little slot lined up and you rotate it, well, you just slide that right off of there, and then here you have a disassembled SIG ready for cleaning. Now, we're not going to take it completely down, but there's your recoil spring in your barrel. Of course, that just pops right out, so you can clean all these pieces. And then you can very quickly have the gun right back together. Just line the slide pieces back up here and come all the way back, and then just bring that notch back to the takedown point again and drop it. And there you go. Just like that, you've reassembled your gun. You do have night sights. They're white dot sights as well. I felt like these sights are very easy to pick up during the daytime, and I feel like they're very effective at night. Sig light sights have always been very good to me. They've been very good quality. And of course, this is the Sig SAS, which means it has this smooth treatment where all of the sharp edges have been taken off of the firearm, and save maybe a small part of the sights, and there's not much anyone can do about that. They've done a pretty good job with that. I also like the oversized trigger guard. I have a big hand and I have long fingers, and they tend to neglect this, I think. And I feel like on a lot of pistols where you have that trigger guard, something in this range here, well, getting your finger, you got to actually pull your finger back and insert it, and to me it's just dumb, whereas I can just sweep my finger right inside. And a lot of HKs have large trigger guards too, and I like them for the same reason. But that's just me, once again. Now, if you're familiar with these guns at all, then you'll know that I have changed the grip. And I didn't do that because the grips are terrible, because when we show the range footage here in a minute, I'll show you some targets, and you'll see that the gun I shot recently has got the regular grip. I've got several of these, and I shoot them with the regular grips all the time. But the one that I carry on me, I added this Hogue grip because it is so much more texturing, and the feel is just absolutely amazing. The ergonomics of this gun are just absolutely incredible. So it's got a nice feature set, it's well built, the pieces feel good together, and the weapon is constructed of extremely high quality materials. And so your basic features are that. Alright, so I said we were going to talk about the range. So, I have shot a lot of rounds through Sig 239s. I mean a lot of rounds. It's probably the gun that I've shot, it's right up there with my HK USPs as far as the maximum rounds I've shot through a firearm, because they're guns I just really love. But because I carry this gun with me all the time, I shoot this gun all the time, and that's just how I do it. But let's talk about some things that we brought up before. Now, I want you to take a look at these targets. Now, if you'll see, you'll notice that you've got a whole lot of rounds going through a pretty good grouped area. And yeah, there's a few strays there. I'm not too concerned about that. But this is being shot from a distance of around 21 feet, about as fast as I can pull the trigger. That's the range that I shoot at. The idea for me is that that's a good defensive range. I've had very good results. Now, we talked earlier about how some people think the double action, single action is a problem. Well, you should just use one kind of action. Well, the trigger on this firearm is really good. And like I say, I have to make myself keep from just pulling it over and over because it's so smooth, it breaks so clean. And single action, it just breaks so clean. And the frame, even though this is a compact gun, it doesn't feel like a compact gun because you've got the ergonomics and the way everything is laid out. When you have this gun in your hand and you are shooting, you feel like that you are shooting a full-size pistol. And you have some of the advantages of shooting a full-size pistol. It's got enough weight to where it gets back. It manages recoil very well, and you get back on target really fast. And I can just shoot this gun over and over and over again. Now, I've had people talk about, well, since this is a discontinued model, well, what about parts and magazines and things like that? Well, yeah, they have a legitimate point, but I think some of it has been overhyped a little bit. Heard some people talk about, well, you're going to have to pay $50, $100 minimum to get magazines for these things because people are going to be out panic buying. Well, I found plenty of magazines just like these. These are Sig mags, and I found these locally for $25 a piece. And a quick Google search before I started this video, I found several places. I found 4 or 5 right off the bat that had them for, $30, $35, $40, somewhere in there. And to me, that's not bad. I mean, you'll pay that for other magazines, modern, current magazines. So there's nothing ridiculous about that. Now, in addition, I found lots of places that sell springs and followers. So, you can pick some up locally. You can probably pick some up at a gun shop, and then you can fix your old magazines if they ever wear out. But, hey, I've never had one wear out. And that brings me to the next thing about this gun, why I love it. I've never had a failure with this pistol. Thousands and thousands of rounds through this gun, and through some others like it, I've never had a failure. Now, when I mean I've never had a failure, I mean I've never had a failure to feed, I've never had a failure to eject, nothing, no stovepipes, nothing. I've never had a problem. And to me that's uncanny, because I don't think I can say that about any other firearm that I've ever owned. So to me, that's a big deal. So let's talk about carry for a second. All right, so I carry this gun every single day, okay? Now, I'm comfortable carrying it in a sticky holster, and you've heard me talk about those a lot. I just like them, I use them because I like them. I can stick something, and people, just to clear it up, well, why do you like sticky so much? Well, I'll show you. You take a gun and put it in a sticky holster, okay? Well, you get it in the waistband and find a good place for it and get your belt tightened up. Well, you've got the weapon in a comfortable spot, but you can still move it, and you can change the cant, the angle that it's sitting inside the waistband. So for me, when I get in and out of the car, I can sit down, I can change this cant a little bit so the gun is not digging into my leather seats when I sit in the car. I can push it forward a little bit and it keeps it off my seats. And then when I step out of the car, I just rock it back to where I want it and it stays right there. It's a little thing, Now I've also got some Galco leather and some DeSantis that both hold it in that same position. But those are a little bit thicker holsters, and so generally when I have a thicker holster, it's going to be when I'm wearing, jeans and heavier clothing. But either way, it's very comfortable. I've even worn this with a cross-breed Super Tuck. I've got several of those holsters I like quite a bit, and I can carry it there with dress clothes tucked in. Winter and summer carry, no issues, and I think one of the things that helps drive that is this design. The hammer, it's exposed to where you can get a grip on it for that single action cocking, but it doesn't stick out so far that it digs into me. And usually when I have an issue carrying a gun, it's because I'm having it dig into the body somewhere and it makes me uncomfortable. Not a problem with this. I've carried this gun for years, or one like it, and it's extremely comfortable. It doesn't feel like a metal gun. It carries just as comfortably as my smaller guns do. All right, so, overall thoughts. Well, Sig P239, extremely reliable handgun. I usually carry this handgun if it's on my body and I'm out in public. I just have the one magazine. That's how I carry. We talked about capacity and different people's concerns. For me, a concealed carry handgun, the whole purpose of this handgun is to protect me and those that are with me. And I think in most situations, if there's a threat and it's beginning to present itself, just you presenting your weapon in a lot of cases is going to stop the threat right there, just a display of force. And so in the unlikely event you actually have to use it, 9 rounds, there's the rule of threes you'll hear people talk about, and it's basically averages taken from thousands and thousands of gunfight interactions between people. And the rule of threes has to do with there being 3 shots fired inside of 3 meters in less than 3 seconds. Okay? The average gunfight, those are the averages. So it happens very fast, it happens close up, and it happens with a low number of rounds. So playing the averages, I have 9 rounds. I'm hoping that that will be enough to get me out of any potential situation that I'm in. And if it's worse than that, well then it should be getting me to some help or to a more appropriate defensive weapon, if that's what the case may be. But either way, it's an extremely accurate and reliable compact pistol, even by today's standards. You know, I have several of these that are new and unfired just to make sure that I have this weapon down the road, because this is it. This is the top one for me. And I've got a lot of other great guns, don't get me wrong. You know, I've got some guns that are probably close to tying, but there's got to be a clear winner, and for me it's this one. You know, it's never let me down, and that is the very definition of a great carry gun. And you know, there's probably not much hope with this one, but you know, Sig Sauer, if you're listening, if anybody's out there and you're trying to decide something to bring back, just for me, this would be awesome. I know the P239 had a good life, 22 years, you know, sold tons and tons of units, you know, probably saved countless lives. It lived a good life, but I still think it went before its time. So, if you're listening, it'd be okay with me. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today for this video. If you like what we have to say, you know, like our videos. We're going to try to keep this format very simple. And the content of these videos are going to be based on your requests, what people ask us to talk about, things that come up either in email or in comments. And so we appreciate your input. You know, give us a like, subscribe to our channel. It helps us out a lot. We'll be back soon with another video for you, and we thank you again. Be safe out there.